What if everything you believe about marriage, about love, about finding your soulmate, is a carefully constructed lie designed to keep you obedient? What if the person you're planning to spend your life with isn't your destiny, but your sentence? Friedrich Nietzsche, one of history's most dangerous philosophers, looked at marriage and saw something nobody wants to admit. And what he discovered will either set you free or destroy every romantic belief you've ever held. By the end of this video, you'll never look at a wedding ring the same way again. You might even question whether you should ever put one on. But before we go there, let me paint you a picture that will make everything click. You're at a wedding, everyone's crying happy tears. The bride looks radiant. The groom looks nervous but excited. The officiant talks about eternal love, about two souls becoming one, about a bond that transcends time itself. Beautiful, right? Now let me show you what Nietzsche saw when he looked at that same scene. He saw a transaction disguised as transcendence. He saw two people signing a contract they don't understand, making promises they can't keep, all while society applauds them for stepping into a cage they'll spend decades trying to escape. He saw the ultimate con game, and love was just the bait. Sound harsh? Maybe. But here's the thing about Nietzsche. He wasn't cruel for the sake of being cruel. He was honest in a world that prefers comforting lies. And his honesty about marriage reveals something about human nature that changes everything once you see it. Marriage was never designed for your happiness. It was designed for control. Think about it. When did marriage actually begin? Not in some romantic fairy tale. Marriage emerged as a property arrangement. Women were literally traded between families like livestock. Love had nothing to do with it. Resources, alliances, bloodlines, that's what mattered. Your great-great-grandmother didn't marry for love. She married because her father needed a political connection or because her family needed another pair of hands on the farm. The whole romantic love story we tell ourselves? That's a recent invention, barely 200 years old. Before that, suggesting you should marry for love would have seemed as ridiculous as suggesting you should choose your parents based on compatibility. Nietzsche understood this. He wrote that marriage as an institution was created to serve society's needs, not individual desires. The state needed stable family units. Religion needed obedient followers. The economy needed productive workers. And marriage delivered all three, wrapped in the language of love and commitment. But here's where it gets really interesting. Nietzsche didn't just criticize marriage as a historical accident. He understood why we keep falling for it, generation after generation, despite overwhelming evidence that it doesn't work the way we're promised. The answer lies in something he called the herd mentality. We're social animals who desperately need to belong, to feel normal, to fit into the tribe, and marriage is the ultimate symbol of belonging. When you get married, you're not just joining your life to another person. You're joining the club of acceptable adults. You're proving to your parents, your friends, your coworkers that you're not defective, not weird, not someone who couldn't figure out how to do what everyone else does. The wedding isn't really about love. It's about finally being allowed into the inner circle of social acceptability. Speaking of which, I'm curious, what city are you watching this from right now? Drop your location in the comments because I want to know where these ideas are landing, where people are ready to hear truths that challenge everything we've been taught about love and commitment. This desperate need for belonging explains why people rush into marriage with partners they barely know, why they ignore massive red flags, why they convince themselves that their mediocre relationship is actually special. It's not about the person you're marrying. It's about the status you gain by being married. Nietzsche saw through this completely. He recognized that most marriages aren't unions of genuine passion or deep compatibility. They're social performances where two people agree to play roles that society has written for them. The husband, the wife, the nuclear family, the white picket fence. None of this is natural, it's all scripted. And we follow the script because deviating from it means social exile, means being seen as broken or incomplete. But the truly disturbing part isn't that marriage is a social construct. Every institution is a social construct. The disturbing part is how marriage changes people after they're locked in. Nietzsche wrote about this extensively. He observed that marriage tends to diminish both partners, reducing them from complex individuals to simplified roles. Before marriage, you're a person with infinite potential, with mysteries yet to unfold, with parts of yourself you haven't even discovered. After marriage, you become someone's husband, someone's wife, and those labels come with expectations that slowly erase who you actually are. Think about the couples you know who've been married for years. How many of them still have that spark, that vitality, that sense of being fully alive? How many of them have slowly transformed into roommates who coordinate schedules and split bills? How many of them stay together not because they're happy, but because leaving would be too complicated, too expensive, too embarrassing? This is what Nietzsche meant when he said that marriage kills love. Not immediately, not in some dramatic explosion, but slowly, methodically, through the grinding routine of shared life, through negotiations about whose turn it is to do dishes, through arguments about money, through the realization that the person you married is just a regular human being with morning breath and annoying habits and limitations you didn't notice when you were blinded by infatuation. The institution of marriage, with its legal bindings and social expectations, transforms love from a dynamic force into a static obligation. You stop asking, "Do I want to be with this person today?" and start asking, "How do I make this marriage work?" The relationship becomes a project to be managed rather than an experience to be lived. Here's what Nietzsche understood that modern relationship experts consistently miss. Marriage doesn't preserve love, it fossilizes it. When you legally and socially bind yourself to another person, you remove the element that makes love powerful, which is choice. Real love, passionate love, transformative love, exists in the space of freedom. It's the daily decision to be with someone because you genuinely want to, not because you signed a contract 20 years ago. The moment you remove that freedom, the moment you create a situation where leaving becomes catastrophically difficult, you've changed the fundamental nature of the relationship. You're no longer there by choice, you're there by obligation. And obligation, no matter how you dress it up in romantic language, is the opposite of love. But this is where Nietzsche gets even more provocative. He didn't just think marriage was bad for love. He thought it was bad for human evolution, for the development of higher forms of consciousness and being. Marriage, he argued, encourages mediocrity. It rewards people for settling down, for playing it safe, for choosing security over growth. Think about what happens when someone gets married. They typically become more conventional, more risk-averse, more concerned with maintaining stability than pursuing excellence. The married person stops asking, "What could I become?" and starts asking, "How do I protect what I have?" This shift is subtle but profound. Marriage channels human energy away from creation and toward preservation. Instead of producing art, philosophy, innovations that could change the world, married people produce children and mortgages and retirement plans. Now, before you think Nietzsche was just a bitter single guy who couldn't get a date, understand that his critique came from a deep understanding of human potential. He believed that humans were capable of so much more than we typically achieve. He introduced the concept of the Übermensch, the person who transcends conventional morality and creates their own values. And he saw marriage as one of the primary institutions that prevents people from becoming this higher version of themselves. Marriage keeps you tethered to the herd. It makes you dependent on another person's approval and cooperation for your own growth. It splits your focus between your own development and the maintenance of a relationship. For Nietzsche, this was a tragedy. He watched brilliant men and women diminish themselves, suppress their wildest ambitions, abandon their most creative impulses, all for the sake of being good spouses. He saw poets become accountants. He saw philosophers become family men. He saw women of extraordinary talent become primarily known as someone's wife. And the cruelest part? Society celebrates this diminishment. We call it maturity. We call it growing up. We call it being responsible. But Nietzsche called it what it is, the death of individual greatness in service of social stability. This is why marriage was never about love. Love is wild, unpredictable, potentially destructive, and creative in equal measure. Marriage is about containment, about taking that wild force and domesticating it into something safe and predictable and useful to society. Real love asks you to risk everything. Marriage asks you to risk nothing, and in return, gain nothing of real value. Consider how we talk about marriage. We use the language of ownership and permanence. My wife, my husband, forever and always. Till death do us part. This isn't the language of love. This is the language of possession. You don't own a person you love. You don't claim eternal rights to their body, their time, their emotional energy. But that's exactly what marriage does. It transforms another human being into a possession, a role, an obligation. Nietzsche recognized this as a form of violence, a violence we've so normalized that we celebrate it with ceremonies and gifts and congratulations. But what about the children? This is always where the defense of marriage becomes strongest. Children need stable homes. Children benefit from married parents. Marriage provides the structure children need to thrive. Nietzsche would have laughed at this argument, not because he didn't care about children, but because he saw through the lie. Marriage doesn't make better parents, it often makes worse ones. When two people stay together out of obligation rather than genuine desire, when they're quietly miserable, but putting on a show for the kids, those children grow up learning that love means sacrifice, compromise, and silent resentment. They learn that relationships are prisons you enter willingly and spend your life trying to make bearable. Is that really the lesson we want to teach the next generation? Moreover, Nietzsche would argue that we could easily create social structures that support children without requiring parents to remain in legally binding romantic relationships. Collective child-rearing, extended family networks, community support systems. These all existed before the nuclear family became the dominant model, and they could exist again. The idea that children absolutely require two married parents is itself propaganda designed to keep the institution of marriage relevant. What children actually need is love, stability, resources, and good role models. Those things can come from many different sources, not just from two people who signed a legal document promising to stay together forever. The real question Nietzsche forces us to confront is this: if marriage isn't about love, and if it doesn't make us happier or more fulfilled, and if it actually prevents us from reaching our highest potential, then why do we keep doing it? Why does every generation, despite watching the previous generation's marriages crumble, line up to make the same mistake? The answer reveals something uncomfortable about human nature. We're cowards. Most of us lack the courage to stand alone, to define our own values, to live outside the approved script society hands us. Marriage offers a ready-made life path. You don't have to figure out who you are or what you want. You just follow the steps. Date, get engaged, have a wedding, buy a house, have kids, grow old together. It's all laid out for you. And for people terrified of freedom, terrified of the responsibility of creating their own meaning, this prefabricated life is incredibly appealing. Nietzsche saw this clearly. He wrote extensively about how most people prefer the comfort of the herd to the danger of independence. Marriage is the ultimate herd institution. It's where individuals go to stop being individuals, to merge into a socially approved unit that requires less courage, less creativity, less genuine engagement with life's biggest questions. When you're married, you have an excuse for not pursuing your wildest dreams. You have responsibilities. You have a partner to consider. You can't just pick up and move to another country or spend years writing that novel or dedicate yourself completely to your art. You're married now. You're stable. You're mature. You're dead. This is Nietzsche's dark truth about marriage. It's a beautiful tomb. Society builds it with flowers and music and celebration, but it's still a tomb. You walk into it freely, smiling, believing you're beginning your life. In reality, you're ending it. You're trading your potential for security, your freedom for belonging, your authentic self for an approved role. And the most twisted part? You'll probably defend this choice for the rest of your life because admitting you made a mistake would be too painful, too costly, too late. So instead, you'll convince yourself that your marriage is special, that your love is real, that you're one of the lucky ones. You'll post happy photos on social media. You'll celebrate anniversaries. You'll tell single people that they just haven't found the right person yet. But late at night, in moments of brutal honesty, you'll wonder what your life could have been if you'd had the courage to stay free. Now let me show you something that will completely shift your perspective on this. Nietzsche wasn't against deep connections between people. He wasn't advocating for lonely isolation or meaningless casual relationships. What he opposed was the institutionalization of human connection, the transformation of something organic and alive into something rigid and controlled. He actually wrote quite beautifully about what he called higher forms of relationship, connections between two people who had both achieved a level of self-mastery, who had become individuals in the truest sense. These relationships weren't based on need or social pressure or fear of being alone. They were based on mutual recognition of greatness in each other. Two complete people choosing to walk together not because they couldn't walk alone, but because walking together enhanced both their journeys. This is radically different from what we call marriage. In the Nietzschean vision, there are no contracts, no legal obligations, no social performances. Just two free individuals who recognize something valuable in each other and decide to create something together. And crucially, either person can leave at any moment without penalty, without guilt, without having to justify themselves to lawyers or family or society. The relationship exists only as long as both people genuinely want it to exist. The moment one person's growth requires a different path, they're free to take it. This sounds terrifying to most people because we've been taught that real love means permanence, that commitment means staying even when you don't want to. But Nietzsche would argue this is exactly backwards. Real commitment is choosing to stay every single day, not because you're trapped, but because you're free and you still choose this. That's infinitely more meaningful than staying because divorce is expensive, and your family would be disappointed. Think about the relationships in your life that have meant the most. Were they the ones where you felt obligated to stay, or were they the ones where you were free to leave but chose to remain? Freedom and choice are what give relationships meaning. Remove them, and you're left with a hollow shell of obligation that we pretend is love. But here's where Nietzsche's critique of marriage connects to something even bigger, his entire philosophy of life. He believed that the purpose of human existence wasn't happiness or comfort or security. It was the creation of new values, the transcendence of current limitations, the evolution toward higher forms of being. And every institution, every belief system, every social structure should be evaluated based on whether it moves us toward or away from this goal. Marriage, in Nietzsche's analysis, clearly moves us away. It anchors us to conventional values instead of encouraging us to create new ones. It rewards conformity instead of innovation. It channels our energy into reproduction and maintenance instead of creation and transformation. This is why he saw marriage as fundamentally opposed to the flourishing of exceptional individuals. You cannot serve two masters. You cannot dedicate yourself to becoming who you're truly capable of becoming, while also dedicating yourself to the preservation of a relationship that demands you stay safe, stable, and conventional. One of these goals will always sabotage the other. For most people, the relationship wins. They sacrifice their potential on the altar of domestic tranquility. And society applauds this sacrifice because it needs people to be predictable, to follow the script, to not rock the boat. But what about the people who refuse to sacrifice themselves? What about the ones who prioritize their own becoming over social acceptance? Nietzsche would say these are the only people worth paying attention to, the only ones actually living rather than just existing. And notice how society treats them. The artist who never settles down is seen as immature. The philosopher who rejects family life is considered cold. The entrepreneur who won't compromise their vision for a relationship is labeled selfish. We have endless language designed to shame people who choose themselves over the institution of marriage, because their very existence threatens the entire social order. If people realize they can be fulfilled, creative, and meaningful without marriage, the whole system falls apart. This is why marriage propaganda starts early and never stops. Disney movies teach little girls that their life only begins when they find their prince. Romantic comedies teach everyone that being single is a problem to be solved. Your family asks when you're going to settle down. Your friends start treating you differently when they get married, and you don't. Society creates an environment where remaining single feels like failure, where choosing freedom over commitment feels like selfishness, where prioritizing your own growth feels like immaturity. All of this is designed to funnel you into marriage before you have time to realize you never actually wanted it. You wanted belonging. You wanted to feel normal. You wanted to stop your family from asking uncomfortable questions at holidays. Marriage provided all of that, but at what cost? Nietzsche would tell you the cost is your authentic self, the person you could have been if you'd had the courage to walk your own path, the life you could have lived if you hadn't traded your freedom for security, the contributions you could have made to the world if you hadn't spent decades managing a relationship that slowly drained your vitality. And here's the really tragic part. You can't get those years back. Once you've spent 20 years in a marriage that didn't serve your highest potential, those decades are gone. You can get divorced, sure. You can try to restart, but you'll be older, more tired, more cynical. The raw energy and idealism of youth, which could have been channeled into something world-changing, has been spent on mortgage payments and couples therapy and trying to keep alive a relationship that was never meant to last forever. Now, I know what some of you are thinking. This is too dark. This is too cynical. Not all marriages are like this. Some people are genuinely happy. Some people found their soulmate. Some people have successful partnerships that enhance both their lives. And Nietzsche would agree with you. Not because he changed his mind about marriage as an institution, but because exceptions exist to every rule. There are people who manage to create genuine partnerships within the structure of marriage. There are couples who maintain their individuality while sharing a life. There are relationships that truly do bring out the best in both people. But notice what all these exceptional marriages have in common. They succeed not because of the institution, but despite it. The couples who thrive in marriage are the ones who essentially ignore everything marriage is supposed to be and create their own version of partnership based on their actual needs and desires rather than social expectations. These exceptional couples don't follow the traditional script. They don't fall into conventional roles. They don't sacrifice their individual growth for the relationship. They figured out how to be married without being imprisoned by marriage. They've taken the legal and social structure and filled it with something authentic and alive. Good for them, genuinely. But their success doesn't vindicate the institution, just proves that strong individuals can occasionally make something work despite being forced into a framework that wasn't designed for human flourishing. It's like praising prison because some inmates manage to write great poetry in their cells. The fact that exceptional individuals can create meaning in restrictive circumstances doesn't mean those circumstances are good. It just means human creativity and resilience are remarkable. Nietzsche's critique of marriage is ultimately about intellectual honesty. He's asking you to look at the institution without the romantic propaganda, without the social conditioning, without the desperate need to believe that what you're doing or planning to do is meaningful and good. Just look at marriage as it actually functions in the world. Look at the divorce rates. Look at the studies showing married people aren't happier than single people once you control for other factors. Look at how many married people are having affairs, watching porn, fantasizing about escape. Look at how many people describe their marriage as comfortable or stable, but not exciting or passionate. Look at how the language of marriage is all about endurance, about staying the course, about making it work, as if you're describing a job you don't really like but need for the benefits. This is what marriage actually is. A practical arrangement that we've covered in romantic language to make it palatable. A social obligation that we pretend is a choice. A lifetime commitment that we convince ourselves we want even when all the evidence suggests it's making us smaller rather than larger. Nietzsche simply had the courage to point at the emperor and note that he has no clothes. Marriage isn't sacred. It isn't about love. It isn't the foundation of a meaningful life. It's a historically contingent social arrangement that served certain purposes in certain times, but has no claim to being natural or necessary or beneficial to human flourishing. And once you see this, once you really understand what Nietzsche is showing you, you can't unsee it. Every wedding you attend will look different. Every married couple you encounter will seem like performers in a play they didn't audition for. Every time someone tells you they're getting engaged, you'll wonder if they're celebrating or surrendering. This awareness is both liberating and isolating. Liberating because you're free from the pressure to follow a script that never made sense. Isolating because you're now aware of something most people desperately don't want to see. You'll be the person at the wedding who's smiling politely while everyone else cries tears of joy. You'll be the one who hears, "When are you getting married?" And instead of feeling ashamed, you'll feel sorry for the person asking, because they're so captured by the illusion they can't imagine anyone seeing through it. But this isolation is what Nietzsche would call the price of awakening. The truth is heavy. It separates you from the comfortable crowd. It requires you to stand alone in your understanding, even when everyone around you is participating in a shared delusion. Most people can't handle this. They'd rather believe the lie and be part of the group than see the truth and be alone. And that's okay. Not everyone is meant to wake up. Not everyone has the stomach for radical honesty about the institutions that structure their lives. But if you're still watching this video, if you've made it this far, you're probably not most people. You're probably someone who values truth over comfort, who's willing to question everything even when it's painful, who'd rather live with difficult awareness than comfortable ignorance. So what do you do with this knowledge? How do you live in a world that's structured around an institution you now see as a beautiful lie? Nietzsche's answer is simple, but not easy. You create your own values. You define for yourself what a meaningful connection looks like, what commitment means to you, what kind of relationship serves your becoming rather than hinders it. You stop letting society tell you what your love life should look like and start experimenting, exploring, discovering what actually works for who you actually are. This might mean long-term partnerships without legal marriage. It might mean shorter relationships that end when they've served their purpose rather than being artificially extended. It might mean unconventional arrangements that society doesn't have names for. It might mean periods of chosen solitude where you focus entirely on your own development. The point isn't to find the right answer. The point is to stop accepting answers that were created for different people in different times, for different purposes. You have one life, one chance to become who you're capable of becoming, one opportunity to create something meaningful with your brief time on this planet. Are you going to spend it following a script written by people who didn't know you and didn't care about your individual potential? Or are you going to have the courage to write your own story, even if it looks nothing like what everyone else is doing? Marriage promises security, belonging, social acceptance. Nietzsche promises nothing except the opportunity to become yourself. One of these paths is comfortable, the other is true. Choose wisely. The dark truth about marriage isn't that it's evil, or that everyone who gets married is making a mistake. The dark truth is that we've built an entire social system around an institution that doesn't serve the purpose we claim it does, and we're so invested in the lie that we attack anyone who points this out. We've made marriage sacred not because it's actually sacred, but because if it's not sacred, then millions of people have to confront the possibility that they've organized their entire lives around something that was never really about love. That's the truth Nietzsche discovered. That's the truth society fears. And that's the truth you now carry. The real question is what you're going to do with it. You've seen behind the curtain. You understand the machinery that creates the illusion. You know that when people talk about soulmates and eternal love and happily ever after, they're reciting lines from a script designed to make them compliant, conventional, and controllable. You can't unknow this. You can pretend you don't see it. You can go along with the charade because it's easier than standing apart. But somewhere in the back of your mind, you'll always know. You'll always hear Nietzsche whispering that you chose comfort over truth, that you had the opportunity to live authentically, and you let it slip away because you were afraid. Because that's what marriage really is. The choice to be afraid. Afraid of being alone. Afraid of being different. Afraid of taking full responsibility for creating meaning in your own life without the crutch of an institution to tell you how it's done. Every person who's truly honest with themselves knows this on some level. They know that marriage is more about fear than love. But they also know that saying this out loud will cost them dearly. They'll be called bitter, cynical, immature, damaged. They'll be accused of not understanding real love. They'll be told they just haven't met the right person yet. All of this is just noise designed to protect the institution from honest examination. Because if we actually looked at marriage clearly, if we evaluated it based on results rather than intentions, if we measured it against the standard of human flourishing rather than social stability, it would collapse under the weight of its own contradictions. That collapse is coming anyway. Divorce rates prove it. The rise of people choosing to stay single proves it. The increasing number of people in their 30s and 40s who've opted out of the traditional path proves it. Marriage as we know it is dying. The question is whether it dies slowly, with each generation slightly less invested in the illusion, or whether it dies quickly because enough people have the courage to speak the truth Nietzsche spoke over a century ago. This institution doesn't serve us. It never did. It was designed to serve society, to serve the economy, to serve the state, to serve religion. The individual human being, with their unique potential and their singular life, was always supposed to be sacrificed to these larger forces. And love was just the candy coating that made the sacrifice taste sweet. But you don't have to make that sacrifice. You don't have to participate in a system that diminishes you while claiming to complete you. You can choose differently. You can build relationships based on genuine desire rather than social obligation. You can commit to people because you want to, not because a contract says you must. You can love without owning. You can connect without imprisoning. You can experience depth and intimacy and partnership without surrendering to an institution that was never designed with your happiness in mind. This is what Nietzsche offers. Not a prescription, but a possibility. The possibility of living honestly, of loving freely, of rejecting every should and suppose to that society throws at you, and instead asking, what do I actually want? Who am I actually capable of becoming? What kind of life do I actually want to create? These questions terrify most people because they require you to take responsibility for your own existence. It's much easier to follow the map society provides, to check the boxes, to do what everyone else is doing and call it a life. But if you've made it this far, if this video resonates with something deep in you, then you already know you're not meant for the easy path. You're meant for the true one. And the true path requires you to question everything, especially the things everyone agrees on, especially the institutions everyone celebrates, especially the choices everyone expects you to make. Marriage is just one of these institutions, but it's a big one. It touches almost everyone. It shapes how we think about love, commitment, success, adulthood, meaning. By questioning it, by really seeing it for what it is, you're not just making a decision about your personal life. You're claiming the right to think for yourself about the biggest questions humans face. This is Nietzsche's gift, the courage to look at comfortable lies and choose uncomfortable truth, the willingness to stand alone in your understanding even when the crowd is united in their illusion, the strength to build your own life according to your own values rather than accepting the prefabricated existence society offers. Marriage was never about love. It was about control. But you don't have to be controlled. You don't have to trade your potential for a wedding ring. You don't have to believe the propaganda just because everyone around you does. You can wake up. You can see clearly. You can live freely. That's what Nietzsche would want for you. Not happiness, not comfort, not security, but truth, and the kind of life that becomes possible when you have the courage to live according to truth, rather than according to the expectations of people who don't know you and don't care about your individual flourishing. This video has probably challenged everything you thought you knew about relationships and marriage. That discomfort you're feeling right now, that's your mind expanding. That's old beliefs being questioned. That's the beginning of real freedom. Take that feeling and run with it. Let it fuel your curiosity about what else you've been told that isn't true. What other institutions are selling you a story that doesn't match reality? What other aspects of your life are based on should rather than want? This journey of questioning doesn't end with marriage. It's just the beginning. Once you start seeing through one comfortable lie, you start seeing through all of them. And that process of awakening, that willingness to choose truth over comfort every single time, that's what Nietzsche meant by becoming who you truly are. Drop in the comments right now, "I choose truth over comfort." Write those exact words. Let that declaration be the first step in a completely new way of thinking about your life, your relationships, your future. Because when you declare your commitment to truth publicly, you're making a contract with yourself that's more meaningful than any marriage certificate. You're promising to never again accept easy answers when hard questions are what you really need. And while you're in the comments, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications, because the ideas we explore on this channel, they're not for everyone. They're for people who are ready to think differently, to question everything, to build lives based on what's actually true rather than what's socially acceptable. The next video we have coming will completely transform how you think about another sacred institution that nobody dares to question. But you're ready for it now. You've proven that by watching this entire video. You've shown that you're not afraid of difficult truths. And that courage is exactly what you'll need for where we're going next. The rabbit hole goes deeper than you think, and every layer you peel back reveals more of reality that's been hidden behind comfortable stories. Are you ready to keep going?